All right, good morning. Good job, guys. You know, as that song was being played, I thought, so neat about God is he doesn't live in an ivory tower. He lives in broken places, doesn't he? And that's something to keep in mind today, because I'm going to talk about a subject that for some people has the potential to stir up regret and shame and pain and just grief, and that is the subject of family. And hopefully that brings up good emotions and thoughts in you, but for many people it doesn't. And just keep in mind, God lives in those broken places, including within our families. We're in a series here on the book of Proverbs. We've called it Sophia, the beauty of wisdom. Sophia is the Greek word for wisdom. And we're teaching through different themes in the book of Proverbs. And last week, I just want to give a plug for this. If you weren't here and weren't able to hear Gene's message, it's one of those messages you need to listen to, because our faith is built upon such ideas, and it was very, very important. It comes from Proverbs 4:23 that says, above all else, guard your heart. And so I'd encourage you to listen to that on our website. That is wisdom for every person, right? That's the great thing about wisdom. It's for all of us. And the great thing about wisdom is that we use it all the time. It's not just something we use on Sundays when we gather to do spiritual things, but wisdom is practical. It's God's pattern for living in the world. And today we're going to look at wisdom as it involves our families. And we need it because living within families is difficult. And like I said, there are many people that have a hard time. There are some people who have lost their families here in the room today. There are some that have families that they would prefer they don't have, right? Let's be honest. And then there are other people who are simply waiting for the family they so badly want. And so family is a complicated thing. And to think about it, it's very important because it can be so painful and difficult for some people. It's the same reason it's really important. And as a family here, a spiritual family, we want to talk about it. And we know everyone's in different stages of their life. Family means different things to different people. But this is something we all need, and here's why. We're a family. We support one another. And even if you're single, understanding marriage a little better will allow you to help your married friends. All right? And likewise, when it comes to children and parents, we're here to help one another live well in the world. And wisdom's what helps us do that, and we learn to do that within community. I want to show you a picture in just a moment of some helpful advice I got when it came to family. Several years ago when we were having our first son, my wife signed us up for a birthing class, and I really got gypped in this one because most birthing classes are like 3, meetings for 1 hour, right? Most guys go to classes like that. Well, Elise signed me up for something like 30 hours of a birthing class. And it was way too graphic. I actually fainted in one of the classes. I'll tell you that story another time. I missed one meeting, luckily, so I guess I didn't go for 30 hours. The Matrix was coming out that night, so I missed that one. But I went to all the others. But I could have missed this class if they would have just given me this brochure that they handed out at the end of the class. I want to show it to you. This is helpful information. So guys in the room that don't yet have kids, you're welcome. You need to work down through all of those pictures, and I'll give you a second to take it in. Now, I'm sorry that's not bigger, but they made it small so it fits in our wallets, all right? I'm just kidding. They didn't give us this at the class. But it's my gift to all the single men that don't yet have kids in the room. This is my gift to you. So it's all you need to know about raising kids right here, all right? There you go. I like it when people get down to the last one. Yeah, I really did show you that this morning. So this is what we're going to talk about with family. There's a theme that occurs throughout the book of Proverbs. It's a theme of honor. Family is talked about in different places, and it's just like Solomon. He's a dad, he's a man, he's writing to his sons, and I think that's the reason why the book of Proverbs doesn't really follow a train of thought. It's just all these random pieces of wisdom in different places. Did you know that? I mean, family occurs throughout the book, money occurs throughout the book, decision-making, it's all throughout there, and I think it's because it was a dad talking to his sons, and we have a hard time keeping our train of thought. But anyway, you have to use the whole book to understand the wisdom that occurs in families. And here's the theme, the book of Proverbs. It's the theme of honoring the people that God has put in your life, specifically learning to honor certain relationships in families. And so I want to talk about what it means to honor. To honor someone means to first be humble, and it means to put them in a place of prominence. It means in our families practically to stop what we're doing, to notice the good that's right in front of us and honor the person. And so we're going to look at what it means for a husband to honor a wife to honor her husband, parents to honor their children, and children to honor their parents. Now, there's a different way that we honor each of those people in an appropriate way. Our goal is to honor them all, but you honor your wife in a different way than you would honor your kids, for example. And so we want to go through this, what it means to honor, to stop and notice and give someone honor. Now, there are a few people that are already thinking, geez, Brian, I'm a little worried that you're talking about honor. Isn't that going to give people a big head? Well, we really don't need to know or worry about that, because we live in a world that dishonors people all the time, right? And our families are the place where honor should be taking place. It's the place where honor should be given for the right things in the right way. And here's why honor is important, and it's a theme in the scriptures. Honor brings out the best in people, not the worst, when it's done the right way. Honor brings out what's godly in a person. And when I say godly, that's a big spiritual word, but what I mean by that are the qualities of God lived out in our life, the qualities of Jesus. So to be humble and patient and kind and gentle is to be godly. To have strength and courage and fortitude is to be godly, because those are the qualities of Jesus. And so honor brings out what is godly, and that's the goal, is that we would increase honor in our families, that we would grow and we would change. So let's start with husbands to their wives, a theme in the book of Proverbs. Proverbs 1:8, we start right away. You have this man Solomon, the wisest man that's ever lived, begins to honor his wife by honoring his son's mother. And so it's more than just saying to his son, hey, you need to listen to your mom. He's using this as a phrase of honor, and these phrases occur over and over again in the book of Proverbs. Proverbs 1:8, listen, my son, to your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching. And then he says the same thing in chapter 6. My son, keep your father's command and do not forsake your mother's teaching. He's honoring his wife. He's honoring his mother in front of his children. In chapter 31, the whole really culmination of the entire book of Proverbs is in a half of a chapter where Solomon, the wisest man that has ever lived, who might have been the most powerful man that was living in the world at that time, who was also the richest man that ever lived, writes a half a chapter about honoring his wife. He stops and he notices, and the book reaches its culmination with honor, a husband to his wife. Verse 10 and 11, chapter 31. A wife of noble character who can find. She is worth more than rubies. Verse 11, her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. And then in verse 28, it talks about how the kids will rise up and honor their mother, but it also says, it sums up the whole thing, the husband praises her. Now, here's what's wise about what Solomon's doing here. He's done the hard work to stop, notice, and understand his wife. And you can't overstate how hard it can be for a man to understand his wife, right? We joke about it, but really is hard work. It takes attention. It does not happen automatically. A man must stop, notice, understand his wife, and Solomon's doing that here. And then he begins to honor her for what's true about her. When you read through the book of Proverbs, and especially in chapter 31, you see this word that occurs over and over again in Hebrew, and it translates into English as valiant. Solomon is praising his wife because she is valiant. Valiant, or to be valiant, means it's a combination of strength and courage. Okay, think of a strong knight, a brave knight. Strength and courage with excellence and quality. He's noticed his wife's strength and her courage, her bravery. He's also noticed her quality and her excellence. He goes on to say, not only do I notice, but I see the way you serve our family, you serve the poor, you serve the community. Everyone says the same thing about you. You're a valiant woman. This husband is stopping, honoring his wife, and this is how he's honoring her that's very specific to her as a woman, as a wife. He's cherishing her. And what wife doesn't want to be cherished? He's cherishing her. He's saying what's true about her, this beautiful combination. I'll be the first one to say, as a husband now of 12 years, I don't stop enough to cherish my wife. I don't stop enough to say what I see in front of me, to appreciate her. Life is busy, life is hard. But this is the job of a husband, to stop and honor and to cherish his wife. That's what it means to be a husband. The word husbandry actually helps us understand what it means to be a husband. Husbandry is used in different professions as a way to describe cultivating something, growing something, producing something. To be a husband is to one that cultivates his wife's heart. He opens her up so that she might be the very person that God has created her to be. Not to be the person that he wants her to be, but to be the person that God has created her to be. That is the point of honor, to bring out more of what's true and what's good in his wife. And so a husband honors his wife by cherishing her. Now, the same principle of stopping to honor, notice and honor, applies wives to their husbands. Now, if you're familiar with the book of Proverbs, you could say, and it would be true, hey, Brian, there's no instruction in there for wives to honor their husbands. But it's absolutely true. You would be right, but it's true that a wife needs to honor her husband. The reason it's not in the book of Proverbs is because you have a man writing to his sons, right? It'd be weird telling his sons to honor their, it'd be weird. It'd be very confusing. Some people already think the Bible's confusing. That'd be very confusing. But the same principle applies. And as a wife is able to grow in her ability to honor her husband, she grows in wisdom and God blesses her. It's a gift that she gives to her husband. Let me let you in on a little secret, women. Every guy, at least that I know, deep down is trying to answer a question. And there's different versions of the question, but it's the same root question, and it goes like this. Do I matter? Do I have what it takes? Am I important? Can I handle this? We're constantly trying to answer that question. Every day we wake up, we're answering that question. And a very wise man will go first to God and say, God, I'm going to let you answer that question for me. And when we do that, Jesus says, hey, with me, you can carry whatever is on your shoulders. You have what it takes. Jesus says that to every man. Every man needs Jesus to say that to him. But God also uses a man's wife, if he has one, to answer the question. Do you have what it takes? And so a wife is able to honor her husband, not by cherishing him. Like you might try to do that, but we don't really care. We feel honored when you respect us. Right, guys? What guy does not want to experience respect from his wife? And so just practically, when a wife honors the work her husband does, his job, that means a lot. Because our job means a lot to us. And a lot of times guys find their identity in it, and sometimes that's unhealthy, but our work matters to us in often a good way. And when you respect that and you honor us. And so a wife can honor her husband with respect. On those occasions when your husband makes a sacrifice, stop and notice and honor him. You'll get more of it. You'll get more sacrifice from him. When he has the courage to do what is right and not what's easy, stop and notice and honor him, and you'll get a more courageous husband showing up all the time. And on those rare occasions when the miracle happens and he's fully attentive to you in a conversation, first of all, enjoy it, but honor him because he's making an effort to listen to you, to understand you. See, there's nothing wrong with honoring a wife, nothing wrong with honoring a husband. What it does is it produces more of what's godly in your marriage, and that is what you will ultimately enjoy the most. When your spouse acts like God in your midst and loves you that way, that's what you will enjoy the most. And so wives honor their husbands. There's another theme in Proverbs, and it has to do with raising children and the idea of parents honoring their children. And some of you would say, well, the theme of honoring children, isn't it really a theme of discipline? And I'm going to get to that in a moment. But this theme of honoring children is not just in the book of Proverbs, but it's throughout the entire Bible. In fact, one of my favorite passages comes from Luke 18, verse 16 and 17, where Jesus has his buddies, his leaders, his studs, the disciples with him. And they make a mistake. They think that kids aren't worth honor, and they start pushing the kids away, and they say, oh, no, Jesus needs to hang out with the important people, the adults, people like us, right? All those important people. And Jesus says, oh, no, get out of the way, let the children come to me. He honors the children with his presence, and then he says, he actually uses them as an example. He says, their faith is the type of faith that you want to have. See, Jesus honored kids, so it's okay as parents for you to honor your own kids. Here's why it's really important. We live in a world today where our kids are constantly dishonored. They're hurt all the time, especially if they go to school. If they go to school, there are mean kids at every school and in every class, and they will dishonor your kids. There's a commercial out on the radio right now. It's a public service announcement about bullying. And there's several of these bullying commercials. Maybe you've heard them or watched them on TV. But this one, to me, is the most powerful one because it's the voice of kids, sweet-sounding kids and teenagers saying terrible things to other kids. And so the commercial goes like this. You just hear the voice of a kid saying to another kid, "You're a loser. You're fat and ugly. No one likes even looking at your face. No one notices you. You're worthless." The world dishonors kids all the time, right? Many of us experienced it when we were kids. And if our kids aren't dishonored, often they're mishonored. And I want to be careful on this because there are good intentions with the way people are trying to build self-esteem in kids, but we're doing it the wrong way. We're telling kids things that are not true to try to help them. I mention this all the time. It's kind of like my little high horse right now. But we tell our kids all the time that they can be anything they want to be when they grow up. And then we also tell them that they can be the best at that in the world. Well, neither of those things are true. They're not. You know what I'd love to be doing right now? Of course, this is what I'd want to be doing more than anything else. But, the Broncos are practicing at Invesco Field right now. I would love to be the quarterback. But that's not going to happen. I would really love to be the quarterback. I tried hard to make that happen. Didn't happen. What we need to do with our kids is help them see what they're actually good at, their own strengths, but also their weaknesses. Our kids are mishonored all the time. Depending on where you live, in certain cultures, kids are honored for different things. I grew up in a small rural town. You know what they honored kids for? Wins and athleticism. And if you didn't win and you weren't athletic, you were never honored. It's not fair. It's not worth honoring. And I'm way into sports. But that is not what's worth honoring. What's worth honoring is godliness. Those qualities of God that are being lived out in a child. So we honor our kids. It's a great tool to bring out more and more of what's true in them. There's a neat tradition in Jewish life that has to do with Friday night Shabbat. Friday night Shabbat is the time where Jews will gather together to celebrate the Sabbath. And they really prioritize stopping to notice what God is doing in their life, but also to stop and appreciate their family. And many Jews on Friday night, as they gather for Shabbat, the dad and the mom together will stand up and they will bless each child individually, uniquely every week. They will honor their kids in front of everyone that's there. And I often wondered, why is it that like high school and college and even young adult Jews often go back and hang out at their mom and dad's house on Friday night for Shabbat? I mean, is it just the good wine? No, I don't think so. They go back because they have been honored and blessed, and that's a place of life for them. And so for parents, it's a tool to build intimacy in your family, but it's a tool to bring out what you really want in your kids, and that is that they would grow and be mature. Now, let me talk about how honor and discipline go together when it comes to raising kids. Proverbs 19:18 says, "Discipline your children, for in that there is hope. Do not be a willing party to their death." And then Proverbs 13 says, "Whoever spares the rod hates their children, but the one who loves their children is careful to discipline them." Extreme words, but the point is this, that if you discipline your kids in the right way, you give them the best chance to be a healthy, mature adult. But the point of discipline, even if you're a teacher or a coach, when you spend time with kids, the point of discipline in any form is not punishment for children, it's growth, right? We want to help them learn and grow and change. And as followers of Jesus, we want our kids to grow and to be like Jesus, to be godly. Well, how do you do that? How does honor show up? Well, the key is in chapter 22, verse 6. It says this: "Start children off." Other versions say, "Train your children, but start children off in the way that they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it." Here's the key to the passage. It's that first word that we get for start or train. It's the Hebrew word hanak. And hanak literally means to inaugurate or to introduce someone to something. And so the word Hanak was used over and over again for a new mother who is trying to introduce her new child to nursing. In other words, she's trying to give her new baby an appetite for what is good, right? He's saying, the wisest man that has ever lived said, the best thing a parent can do is to give your kids an appetite for what is godly so that when they're older, when they mature, they will continue to choose it. So how do we do that? Well, we model it, we teach it, we use discipline to guide them in that direction, but you know what else we do? We honor godly qualities when we see it in our kids. When they do the right thing, we stop and notice. Say, I see it. Awesome job. As parents, we're really good at stopping to notice the things that are wrong, but we need to make sure we're just as good at stopping and noticing the things that are good. This is a powerful tool in helping kids thrive in life and become healthy adults. When I was in 4th grade, I experienced this from my parents. I had one of those years of school that I think many people have, which is just the worst year ever. There are some people that describe every year of school that way. Well, I had 1 year of school. I had this teacher that I was sure hated my guts. I mean, I'm still scared of her when I think of her. And I didn't like her because of that. And I was in a class without any of my friends. And so that was bad. But to make matters worse, that was the year that I really started to fall behind in school. I had some struggles with reading, and I was in a school that wasn't very helpful, and I'm pretty sure now that I had dyslexia, but I didn't get the help that I needed. And actually, what they used to do is they used to make it public that we had struggles with reading, and they would give us these things called colored overlays to use for reading. Has anyone ever had one of these or seen these things? Okay, a few of us. They probably phased them out of your schools long ago, but they used them in my school, even after no one else did. Well, my color to help me read better was green. So I was labeled the green kid, and I was given a colored overlay that was green, and I would have to use it and put it over every book and piece of paper that I would read because they were sure that it would help me read better. Well, it didn't help at all. It was just super embarrassing to carry around that stupid little green plastic thing. I hated it. And my teacher that year, she didn't like me, like I said, and she thought that I talked too much, which is probably true. So she moved my desk, and I sat over on the side by myself. So this is just a miserable year for Brian Carlucci. I'm falling behind on reading. This is the first time in my years of elementary school that I'm not able to get A's and B's. I have a couple classes I'm falling behind in. I'm getting C's, and that was super embarrassing for me, and I had to work really, really hard to even try to get a B. I was able to get up every day and go to school even when I hated it because my mom and dad honored the right things. They honored hard work and perseverance and dedication. And when I would come home after a tough day, they would honor the fact that I was able to stick it out. When I found it within me to have a good attitude, which was not very often, they honored the good attitude. And then at the end of the year, those 2 classes that I could not get up to B's, I finally got B's on those. And I remember I was so glad to come home and tell my mom and dad that all the hard work had paid off and that I had got my grades up. And I thought mom and dad were just going to be so happy about me having B's. But my mom and dad were wise. And rather than honoring the grade, they honored the hard work and dedication that it took to get that. This is what they did. They gave me an appetite for what is good and what is godly. Dedication, perseverance, hard work, working through difficult things, not giving up. They gave me an appetite for it. That's what we do with our kids. Just last week, my oldest son, Cole, spent the week with his grandparents. And while he was there, he worked at my dad's store like I used to when I was a kid. And he'd call me up every day. He'd give Elise and I an update on the amount of money that he had earned. So he'd had a new number every day. And he reached his goal. But Elise and I were not so happy about the money that he had raised, but we were happy that Cole learned to work hard and had a boss for the first time, and that Cole was saving his money and wanting to give. And so we chose to honor those things because that is what matters to us. See, what a parent chooses to honor, they will get more of in their kids. And we need to choose to honor those things that are godly in our children. All right, here's the last one, the 4th. We honor our parents. And this is specifically for adult children honoring their parents. okay? Because this is a room full of adults. Proverbs 17:6 says, parents are the pride of their children. Proverbs 15:20, a wise son brings joy to his father, but a foolish man despises his mother. Proverbs 20:20, if someone curses their father or mother, their lamp will be snuffed out in a pinch of darkness. And Proverbs 31, may your father and mother rejoice. May she who gave you birth be joyful. And then, of course, there's the fifth commandment that says, honor your father and mother. We love telling little kids that, but we forget as adults who move out of our parents' home that this still applies to us. And it does. So what does it mean to honor your parents as an adult? Well, it doesn't mean that we always have to agree. It doesn't mean that it's our job to continue to obey them or to try to continue to please them. It doesn't even mean that we have to be close with them, although that is something worth working towards. That's a blessing. Doesn't mean any of those things. But to honor your parents means that you regard them in such a way that you're grateful, that you honor them with gratitude, with appreciation, that you get past the things that they did wrong and enjoy the things that they did right. There are no perfect parents, and no one holds parents to a higher standard than their own kids. But it is a gift that we can give ourselves when we begin to forgive our parents. When we let them off the hook for the things that they did wrong or the ways they disappointed us or with the times they weren't there, and no one's denying those things happen. I'm a dad that makes mistakes all the time. My kids will have to do the same thing. But it's a gift we give ourselves when we forgive our parents. Forgiveness is for us, not for them. But this is what then it allows us to do for them. We're able to honor them. And we honor them by appreciating what is true and what is good. Now, I had the pleasure of having great parents, but they weren't perfect. And my dad wasn't a follower of Jesus when I was at home, and so that made it hard on us. But there are so many things that I honor and appreciate about both my mom and dad. One of those things is that they broke something terrible in our family. My mom grew up in a family where her mom was abusive to all the kids. My dad grew up in a family where his dad was abusive to all the kids. Often, abuse moves from one generation to the next, right? My mom and dad stopped it. They weren't abusive. And so my brothers and I, we honor our parents for what they broke. Honor your parents. I think this applies to in-laws as well. If you're married, make it easy on your spouse to honor their parents. Honor them in the same way that you would honor your own parents for the good that they've given your wife or your husband. Make it easy on them. Here's an idea that you can take and use in a way to honor your parents. It's called writing a tribute. And writing a tribute is simply writing down, putting on paper what you appreciate and what you're thankful for from your mom and dad. And you can be as honest as you want to be. I'd encourage you to. But give it to your parents. It will be a prized possession for them. Several years ago, my parents celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary, and my father-in-law actually encouraged me, said, hey, you ought to get your brothers together, and you guys ought to write a tribute to your mom and write a tribute to your dad. So we each took a paragraph, and we wrote my mom and dad a tribute. And that tribute now hangs next to their bed. It's like the prized possession in the house, the appreciation of their sons to mom and dad. And I knew my mom and dad really cared about it because one of the few times I've seen my dad cry was when he was reading the tribute. My dad's a simple guy like me. He cried at his son's graduation, at his dad's death, when I won a state championship, and when he got the tribute. That's it. We're not very deep. It's about that far. We're planning on crying in February when the Broncos win the Super Bowl. We're looking forward to it. But he loved it as a prized possession. When he turned 60, and when my mom turned 60 a few years ago, we wrote him another tribute where I basically said, Dad, the best things I have in my life are because of you. I appreciate you. I thank you. That little piece of paper that I sent him as a note is framed next to his bed. It's a prized possession of a parent to know that their kids love and appreciate them. That is your gift to give your parents. And I would encourage you to do so, to honor your parents, to honor your in-laws. All right, those 4 areas. Honor your wife, honor your husband, your kids, and your parents. There's one other theme of family that we need to mention that occurs in the Bible, even shows up in Proverbs, and that's the family of God. Did you know that you could summarize the entire story of God and humanity and the entire story of the Bible this way? God is building a family. God is building a family in us, with us, among one another. And God cares about family, and he cares about being our father, and he cares about being our groom. He cares about being our husband that we would respond to. And God is the perfect family man. Jesus himself was the perfect son that submitted to the Father, and God's story is a story of family. One thing that's very important when it comes to learning to honor family is learning to honor this family, the spiritual family. There are many people in our church that don't have the family they want. There are certain people in this church that don't have a living family member alive. This is not to be some institution where we gather together to listen to someone preach. More than that, it is a family where we care for one another. We fill in the gaps. We experience true community. We work towards that. And so any effort that you make to be open and available to people, to care for people, to love people, to open your home to them, to open your family to them, you are building and honoring God's family. You're not building Cornerstone Church. You're building God's family. And so family is so important because we fill in the gaps. And so we need to keep that in mind as we all begin to apply this message. We honor God's family. But it's God's family is the key to all of this. And Aaron, you guys can come up. I know I need to finish up here. God's family is the key to this. If you're not a part of God's family, you will not have what you need to be the humble person that you need to be an honoring husband, an honoring wife, an honoring parent, honoring children. We learn humility from Jesus, who is the perfect spouse who laid down his life, right? He is the perfect father. Jesus described God this way as the Father. He's the father whose children have rejected him, run away, blown his inheritance, said, I don't want anything to do with you, that someday come back around, and he's there saying, I'm not here to get even. There's nothing that you need to pay for. I'm here to hug you and welcome you back. God is the perfect father, the perfect parent. As I said, he's the perfect son, honored his father. See, Jesus humbles himself for us so that we can humble ourselves for him and for one another, and that starts with our family. He empowers us to live like him. And we need this because the job of raising a family is an incredible responsibility. It's an awesome job. Being a good son is a challenge. Being a good daughter is a challenge. This is a huge task that we need not to neglect but take very seriously, and we need the secret. But I also want you to think of it this way, and this is how I want to end. Our family is not just a responsibility. We don't just honor our family because it's our responsibility. We honor our family because our family is a gift. Family, whatever version you have, maybe it's just this family, is a gift from God. It took a sabbatical for me to learn this. And so 4 years ago, after my 8th year of ministry here at church, I was given the gift of going on a sabbatical where you go away and have some time off. And the idea is that you would pay attention to God so that we can come back and be attentive to you as pastors. That's the idea. And I was thinking, well, God, am I gonna do something impressive with my time off and accomplish something? No. Nothing impressive came from my sabbatical. But God spoke to me, and he began to speak to me about family. And the main idea is that, Brian, your family's a gift. And I can remember going back and forth with him thinking, of course my family's a gift. And he goes, no, your family's a gift. And I go, of course my family's a gift. No, your family's a gift first. It is not your job. It is not your responsibility. It is a gift first. And so the entire sabbatical, he just kept saying the same thing to me. And something deep started to set inside my heart that my family really is a gift. So I started thinking of him this way. My family is a gift. And that, as a person, I really want to change and grow. God's way of making that happen, most of all, is my family. He gave me a wife who reminds me of the things I do wrong. She is not a pain. She is a gift. He gave me kids who call it the best in me. They are not just a responsibility. They are a gift. And more than that, God showed me that it's in my family that I actually experience intimacy with him. I'll finish with this. There's a trail behind my house that Elise and I enjoy running on, and we never get to go together because someone has to stay at home and watch the boys. But whenever we're out on that trail, especially me, I'm just so glad to be out of the house. It's like the one time during the week where there are no responsibilities. There's nothing to do. There's no one asking me for anything. And so I run this trail. And on my way back, the trail's not very long. I run back and I begin to think, all right, the fun is over. My connection with God, this space of silence where I hear his voice, it's over. And I always begin to think, back to the ordinary, back to my family. And even before I can see my house, I can hear my family. I can hear the 4 little Carlucci boys and my dog Gus, either in the house or in the backyard, raising hell. And I think, oh my gosh. And it's so easy for me to think, here, I got to get back to all the things I've got to do. I got to take care of this with the boys. It's my responsibility. But because of what God said to me on that sabbatical that summer, as I run back to the house, he says, no. They're not your responsibility. They're your gift. Enjoy them. And I began to think, but my time with you is over. This connection with you is over. And he goes, no. Your family is the first place that you hear my voice. That is where you understand what it means to be a heavenly father. That is what you understand what it means to be a husband, a wife. That's where you understand what it means to be a child. Your family is the first place I love you. And then I think, it's a gift. And when your family's a gift, it's a lot easier to honor your family. And that's the goal. All right, let's pray. Father, thank you that wisdom is practical. It makes a difference in everyday life. I'm grateful that the book of Proverbs is not just full of spiritual ideas, but full of practical wisdom, as practical as helping us with our families. And so, Father, this morning, as Cornerstone Church, as Cornerstone family, we want to bless the families represented here. First of all, God, I bless our community. I bless our spiritual family. I pray for more connection. I pray for more vulnerability, more availability. I pray for more sacrifice among our people for one another, that we might build a family where all are welcome, where the gaps are filled in. Father, I also pray for every family represented in the room, every earthly family that you have given us. I pray, God, that we would first see it as a gift. And then, God, we would be able to honor those in our lives. So for the husbands to their wives, wives to their husbands, our children, our parents, even our siblings, I pray that we would be people of honor who would bring out the very best in those around us. Thank you that we can do that because you have humbled yourself before us. You have put us in a place of honor. And I pray we would respond with the same towards others. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, let's stand together. These guys are going to lead us with one last song.